You all know who Malcolm Gladwell is, right? He wrote The Outliers. He does The Tipping Point, Blink. Don't know his work. He does a lot of research. He's a journalist. He writes for the New Yorker, I think, but he does a lot of research in social science and psychology, social psychology, sociology. But I think this is really amazing. This book is all about the tipping point, how little things can make a big difference, how culturally and socially certain things catch hold and become what they become, like zeitgeisty or a phenomenon, and there's science behind it. But I get blown away when people who have nothing to do with acting are really addressing acting so specifically without even realizing it. So this is what he's talking about. He's talking about character, weirdly enough. And first I just want to read a little tiny thing and then what he says about character. So he says, when we observe a woman who seems hostile and fiercely independent some of the time, but passive, dependent, and feminine on other occasions, our reducing valve usually makes us choose between the two syndromes. We decide that one pattern is in the service of the other, or that both are in the service of a third motive. She must be a really castrating lady with a facade of passivity. Or perhaps she is a warm, passive, dependent woman with a surface defense of aggressiveness. But perhaps nature is bigger than our concepts, and it is possible for the lady to be hostile, fiercely independent, passive, dependent, feminine, aggressive, warm, castrating person, all in one. Of course, which of these she is at any particular moment would not be random or capricious. It would depend on who she is with, when, how, and much, much more. But each of these aspects of herself may be a quite genuine and real aspect of her total being. Then he goes on to say this. Character, then, isn't what we think it is, or rather, what we want it to be. It isn't a stable, easily identifiable set of closely related traits, and it only seems that way because of a glitch in the way our brains are organized. Character is more like a bundle of habits and tendencies and interests loosely bound together and dependent at certain times on circumstances and context. The reason that most of us seem to have a consistent character is that most of us are really good at controlling our environment. I have a lot of fun at dinner parties. As a result, I throw a lot of dinner parties and my friends see me there and think that I'm fun. But if I couldn't have lots of dinner parties, if my friends instead tended to see me in lots of different situations over which I have little or no control, like say faced with 4 hostile youths and a filthy broken down subway, they probably wouldn't think of me as fun anymore. You guys, this is a social psychologist saying character is forged out of you living yourself circumstantially. Circumstances and context create character. So the real work for the actor is to explore all these facets of one's being. And when you do, unapologetically, bravely, courageously, non-judgmentally, freely, which is always the goal, what we're trying to get to all the time, more and more deeply, then you begin to have all these things running simultaneously. And it makes you complex and weird and human and dangerous and exciting and sexy and dynamic and human. I'll say it again, human. We are never just one thing at the expense of something else. So I know you all know that. I know this class knows that. But I just, listen, I've been teaching that forever. But to read it by somebody who has nothing to do with acting and is saying that character is developed circumstantially. It's not an objective thing. Character is not inside, it's not outside in, it's inside out. So in other words, you're not putting something on top of who you are. You already have enough characters in you to last a lifetime. You do. There's some crazies in there. Yes, you laugh because it's true. The goal is, you've got them all somewhere in you. The seductress, the temptress, the most divine, the most devilish, the most miserly, the most giving, the most neurotic, the most together, the most vicious, the most loving, the most compassionate, the most uncaring, and on it goes. They all dwell within you. You don't want to acknowledge them because they're scary and weird, and as he said, they come about as a result of controlling your environment. So if you control your environment, i.e. if you're a control freak, some of those things don't have to come out. But the interesting thing about acting, and it was just the Academy Awards, right? So you see actors who are lauded for doing these amazing performances? Well, performances that are getting them to go to places that they themselves, in a controlled environment, don't allow them to go. You guys, it's not rocket science. Everybody in here can do it. Y'all are hardwired to be human. You're all hardwired to release these characters within you. Nobody has something more than anybody else. It's just a willingness to be bravely acknowledging those things that come up as they are triggered circumstantially. So that's not what? Is that good? Okay. I mean, that's just all in the moment there. I mean, that wasn't really a lesson, but that's to Malcolm Gladwell. I will give him a shout out again.